And then we'll just start with a couple minutes of grounding and some basic breath work here. So several different options. You could plant your feet on the floor. You could walk your feet out wide and let your knees fall together. Or maybe trying butterfly legs if you'd like, soles of feet together and knees open wide. And if you do that, feel free to pad with like a blanket or a pillow under your knees if that feels helpful, both sides. Finding a placement of your lower body that feels good for you, and then bringing one hand to your low belly and one hand to your heart. And starting to take some longer, more slow breaths. Noticing how your torso moves as you inhale and exhale, how your chest rises and falls. And maybe also noticing the movement of your rib cage and perhaps your belly. And maybe you notice that your belly lifts up toward the ceiling as you inhale and lowers down to your spine as you exhale. And trying to breathe through your nose as much as possible during yoga, but also feeling free to use open mouth exhales whenever you feel that might be helpful for releasing extra tension or heat. If you want to try a few of those now, feel free. So maybe taking a deep inhale through your nose and filling your low belly. And then open your mouth to slowly exhale. You can do a couple more of those on your own, noticing how when you inhale, trying to really fill your lungs, let your belly expand, your ribs, your chest and shoulders. And as you exhale, can you squeeze every last drop of air out of your lungs? When you feel complete in those breaths, then close your lips gently and start to breathe just through your nose. Relax your jaw, face, forehead. Maybe bringing your arms up to cactus with your elbows bent at 90 and your palms up toward the sky. And take 3 very big belly breaths here. So as you breathe in, your belly fills with air. And as you breathe out, your belly draws down toward the earth. And then bringing awareness to your heart space. Noticing how it moves as you breathe. And maybe planting a little seed of intention in your heart tonight. If you have a goal you'd like to keep alive during this practice, just one word or phrase or a mantra that you can use to keep you focused on a deeper meaning. If you'd like to join, my intention tonight is surrendering to what is. It is what it is. A few more breaths here, and then we'll move into our warm-up. And last exhale together. And then using your inhalation to help stretch your body long once more, like a full body stretch. Fingers reaching away from toes. And then bring both your lower body and your upper body over to the left side of your mat. So we're making like a big C curve in your body. It's like a banana shape, kind of. Your hips and shoulders are still grounded, anchoring down. And then take your right ankle and cross it over the left. You can clasp your hands or reach for opposite elbows. And relaxing in, since these are our warm-up postures, we won't hold them for super long time. We'll do this one for a couple minutes. You probably feel a stretch all along the right side of your body. Perhaps into your hips. On the right side, maybe your psoas or your side body, or maybe even your shoulder. Keep breathing deeply, allowing your belly and ribs to expand and contract as you breathe. And if you found the stretch that you'd like to enjoy, then just relax your body into it. Melting into the ground. Three more breaths here. After you have finished your 3 breaths, come back to midline. So you can plant your feet and scoot your hips back to the center, scoot your shoulders back to the center, take a big exhale there. And then with your next inhale, extend your legs and your arms again, and bring both your legs and your upper body over to the right side of your mat. So you kind of have to really kind of shimmy your shoulders over there. Try to rest your hips and your shoulders down on the ground. And then you can cross your left ankle over the right, maybe interlacing your hands or clasping opposite elbows. And as you settle in on this side, just try to slow down your exhales so that your exhales are a little bit longer than your inhales. About 3 more breaths here on this side. And as you're ready, taking your last exhale, bending your knees, planting your feet back on the mat, using your arms to reposition yourself at center. And then reaching for your bolster or your pillow, bring it onto the left side of your mat. You can lift up through your right leg and then just bring it across your body. So the bottom knee, if it's bent, you can just let it rest onto the ground. Or you can start to straighten the bottom leg, and that will deepen the twist here. So just going for a twist where your leg is supported by a pillow or a bolster. And then the left leg, the bottom leg, if you straighten it, it's deeper twist. If you let it bend, it's a more gentle twist. Your arms can be extended, maybe with your palms up, and then maybe do some kind of snow angel movements here with your arms until you find that perfect shoulder stretch that you're looking for. And then with a big exhale, settling into the posture, relaxing your body as much as possible so that you can breathe freely and allow the energy to flow along your meridians. So, the first quote I'll share with you tonight is about change. And it's by Julie Wyland. She says, change is not only inevitable, but always happening. When you truly embrace this concept of change being constant, then the only thing left to do is grow, detach, venture inwards, touch your spirit, and find your source, the one responsible for keeping you grounded through the ever-changing seasons of life. Taking a few moments longer to notice your body, maybe noticing the sensations of stretching or strengthening that you might feel here. Maybe noticing your spine as it turns, cleansing through your back and your internal organs. We'll take about 3 to 5 more breaths on this side. Once you have completed your breath cycles, begin to lift your knees, grounding once more through your feet, bringing your hips back to center. And you can take your cushion and just move it to the other side. Same thing on this side. So the bottom, the right leg is on the bottom and just kind of comes to the inside of your cushion. The left leg is on top and you can drape it over so that's resting there. And then the more you straighten the bottom leg and stack your hips, the deeper this twist will become. The more you bend the bottom knee, the more gentle it might feel. You can move your arms around until you find the perfect stretch in your shoulders and chest. And feeling free to turn your gaze away from your bent knee, the top knee, the bolster, in order to twist your neck. Belly breaths and really slowing your breath down, feeling all of the contact points of your body on the ground. Allow yourself to melt into this twist. So our yoga practice has so many benefits to our daily life, especially during trying times. It helps us find the present moment, which makes us more adaptable to change. We understand that the present moment is all that exists and it fluctuates all the time. But yoga also has another kind of hidden treasure, hidden gift to give us. which is that it helps us to learn to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. So even though these postures, sometimes they might feel a little foreign to your body or even difficult, sometimes there's that like stretchy pain feeling that we have to breathe through to open up more. The same can be said for our lives. You know, we encounter uncomfortable situations in our lives, and our yoga practice can help us feel more grounded, remembering to breathe into them and adapt. So just taking a couple more breaths on the side of your twist. And then when you are ready, when you feel balanced from side to side, begin to lift your knee, bringing your hips down. And we can take a moment here to hug our knees into our chests. You could take a short, brief happy baby if that feels helpful, clasping the insides or outsides of your feet and feeling free to rock a little bit from side to side or to explore stillness. Just 3 breaths here as we transition. And then as you're ready, we're going to make our way to kneeling on our mats. So if you're up for it, you can maybe clasp the backs of your thighs and start to rock and roll your body up to seated. If that doesn't feel available, then just turn yourself onto one side. Use your hands to guide your body up. And then when we get to kneeling, let's find a tabletop form. So remember that you're always welcome to add some extra padding under your wrists or your knees if that feels helpful. And we'll make our way into table. And when you get there, maybe just take a few cat-cows to help open up your back. So maybe inhaling as you lower your belly, lift crown of head and tailbone, and then perhaps exhaling as you round. Just moving with your breath for a few repetitions, kind of starting to feel comfortable here in this different positioning of our bodies. And then I'm going to do a few wrist stretches for those of us who are doing a little more paperwork or computer work in the middle of all this. Even if not, these stretches are great for actually preventing arthritis as well. So they're good for everybody. The first thing we'll do is ground into the left hand and try to make sure your wrist is right under your elbow and your shoulder. So you have your joints stacked over there. Then pick up your right hand and bring the back of your hand to the mat. So your fingers are facing towards your knee on the right side only. And then you can just kind of pour some of your weight into that right wrist, depending how much you're up for. It's up to you. You can also ground more into the left hand to lighten the stretch. And keep breathing, keep using your belly breath and slowing down your exhales. Your gaze can just be down at your mat, staying balanced. We'll hold this one for about 30 seconds longer. It's not a formal yin posture, but it's a really good one. So I'm glad we had the inspiration to do this today. Last breath or 2 here. And then as you're ready, grounding into your left hand again, pick up your right wrist and roll it out. Rolling your elbow, we'll get into that movement as well. And then you can plant your right wrist down. Make sure it's right under your elbow and your shoulder, so your joints are stacked. Take your left hand and bring the back of your hand to the ground. Same thing here. So your left wrist is still right under your elbow and your shoulder. And then you can pour a little bit more weight into that left wrist if you'd like, or you can keep the majority of your weight in your right wrist. Make sure the fingers of your right hand are spread out as wide as possible, really cupping onto your mat there. And if you want a deeper stretch, you can even let your hips sink back a little bit, just an inch or two. Couple more breaths here on this side. You might find it helpful to start using an audible breath like ujjayi. Letting yourself hear your own breathing is a very helpful calming technique. And then as you're ready, pick up that left wrist and roll it out. Rolling it out. And then bring your torso up. You can walk your hands up onto your hips if you'd like. And let's curl our toes under. We'll do a little arch stretch too. Try to reach down and make sure all your toes are curled under on both sides. And then for this one, let's bring our hands forward and then push your palms away. Tuck your tailbone a little bit and try to imagine like you're holding a bowl of water in your pelvis here. And then with an inhale, begin to bring your arms up above your head. Stretching your wrists a little differently here. Keep pushing up through your palms, rolling your shoulders down away from your ears. Just a few breaths here. Now you can keep your arms up like that if you want an extra challenge and keep stretching your hands and wrists, maybe changing which finger is in front. So changing your finger placement a little bit if you're going to keep your arms here. Or you can bring your hands to your hips and we'll just sink our hips back and down just a couple inches to feel a nice stretch in your arches. You don't have to go very far, or if it is available to you, then you might even be able to sink your hips all the way down. But it's okay for them to be hovering, and we're just going to do this one for just 3 to 5 breaths. And last exhale here as you release your hands, lift your torso up, plant your hands right underneath of your shoulders, tops of toes can come down, and paddle out your feet for a few moments there. Nice job. Okay, so now let's bring our big toes together, and you can separate your knees out as wide as you'd like. They can even start coming off your mat a little bit if you want. Sink your hips back and down, and we'll take a child's pose. So you can extend your arms out in front of your body if you'd like, and rest your forehead toward the ground. This is also a great time to maybe bring a cushion under your torso or maybe a block under your head. And I can also offer the option maybe to bring your palms together out in front of you. And then as you lower your head down, try to bend your elbows so that your thumbs come toward the back of your neck. Or you can turn your palms down towards your shoulders. Breathing deeply into your back body, we'll hold this child's pose for a few minutes. Allowing your back body to rise and fall as you breathe. There's a nice quote by Deepak Chopra, and he said, "In the midst of movement and chaos, keep stillness inside of you." It's often said or reminded at yoga school that peace, being peaceful doesn't mean to be in a perfectly quiet place where there's no noise, trouble, or hard work. Rather, to be at peace means to be in the midst of these things and still feel calm in your heart. Three to five more breaths here in child's pose. And then as you're ready, allowing an inhalation to start to lift your torso back up, hands under shoulders, bringing your knees in under your hips. We'll move into a squat posture now. So this is kind of one of the few yin postures where we come up to standing for a moment and then we squat back down. And there are several different ways that you can do this with lots of different support. So maybe I'll show you the full version first, the final version, in case you're wanting to go straight into it, you can feel free to do that. And then I'll show you how we can add support that might be helpful. So kind of the basic idea is to step out pretty wide with your feet. They're just wider than hip distance and your toes are out further than your heels. Hands come to heart center or hips, tuck your tailbone, lengthen up through crown of head, and then we would start to squat down. Now, you might get here and realize that's as far as you want to go. You can pause there, and then I'll come back and show you some props you can add in if you'd like. Or if you want to try to lower your hips toward the ground, then this is what the full expression might look like. Okay, elbows to the insides of knees. Now, if you have tight Achilles tendons or you'd like a little bit of a lift for your heels, then you can take like a blanket rolled up. And you can also use like a stool or a chair for this posture. So if you have something handy, feel free to grab it. And so similar idea, you would put your heels on the blanket and then squat down, knees coming open wide, and maybe resting your hips onto a chair. Then you would lean forward with your torso and bring your elbows to the insides of your knees. If you feel like you can go a little further toward the ground, then maybe using blocks under your hips or your cushion could also be helpful. So if you're using blocks or a cushion, they just kind of go right behind your blanket and that gives you something to sit back onto. Finding your expression, and in the yin tradition, we'll hold this one now for about 3 minutes now that everyone is in it. But I want to offer you the option to alternate it with dangling pose if you need a break. So you can stay in squat if you'd like. Just keep pushing your chest forward, rolling your shoulders back, breathing, feeling your legs opening here. But if you need a break at any time, then you can lift your torso, extending your legs, just turn your toes in a little bit, allowing your upper body to hang and dangle forward. So just feeling free to explore those two postures. Doing squat, if you're able to keep holding it, that's great. If you need a break, then take a few moments in dangling pose or forward fold, and you can kind of sway your body or explore stillness there. And then when you're ready to rejoin us in squat, make sure you turn your toes back out again before lowering your hips down. We're about halfway through here. Whichever option you've chosen is perfect. You can maybe even close your eyes and breathe deeply through your nose. Feel your arches of your feet lifting and the rest of your feet are grounding, and relax your toes. Feeling free to alternate with a forward fold whenever you need to. If you're still in squat, maybe pushing your chest forward a little bit more and feeling like your pelvis is drawing toward the earth. About 3 to 5 more breaths here. Find your own pace, your own rhythm of breathing. Keep lifting through your arches so that they don't collapse. And then when you feel complete in the posture, we'll use dangling pose or forward fold as a transition. So begin to lift your torso and toe heel your feet in until they're about hip distance or closer together. This is a nice time maybe to use blocks or a chair in front of your body if you'd like some extra support there. And bend your knees, engage your thighs. Let your upper body hang heavy toward the ground. You can shake out your head and neck at first if you like, and then deciding whether you'd like to reach your fingers toward or to the ground or maybe on opposite elbows. It's up to you. Enjoying this posture for about 2 minutes here. You can always bend your knees more deeply, which should alleviate back pain. So if you're feeling back pain, you might try bending your knees a little bit more. Or you can lift your torso up onto some kind of prop. So putting your hands up on something so that you don't have quite as much weight pulling down through your upper body. Once more, notice your feet. Relax your toes, lift up through your arches. In this posture, sometimes it's nice to visualize like tensions or stresses just kind of rolling off your back. As you breathe, let your breath massage your spine, your back body, your rib cage. And we'll take about 3 to 5 more breaths here. Also trying to have your weight pretty evenly distributed through your feet, between your heels and your pads of your feet. Engaging through your thighs for these last couple of breaths, maybe straightening your knees a little bit more. And then pushing down through your feet with an exhale. Bend your knees deeply and inhale very, very slowly. Begin to roll your body up to standing. When you get there, you can do a little bit of kind of side to side swaying, spiraling. Your head and neck can get involved. Maybe shaking out your wrists. Your feet can stay planted or you can shake them out. And then we'll begin to come down to dragonfly fold. And so for tonight, for dragonfly, if you'd like, you can prop your hips up onto a blanket. Just make sure if you do that, that your hips are both grounded equally. And then you might like to have your cushion or your blocks handy here. Stepping your feet out pretty wide into a V. The first option is actually to have your knees bent, which is a great option. And if you do that, you might maybe play around with putting some support under your knees, and then you can bring your elbows toward that support as you hinge forward. So this is kind of the most gentle option. Or you can start to rise up with your torso and straighten your legs, pushing out through your heels, maybe bringing your hands along your hips, lengthening up through your spine, and then exhaling to fold. Perhaps using any kind of props, positioning them so that maybe you can allow your forehead to rest onto something. And again, finding that like that 80% stretch here. We're using dragonfly tonight to get a little bit more into the hamstrings and the side bodies. So we'll just be in this forward fold here for a few more breaths. It has a similar effect on the body as the squat that we just did. So we don't need to hold this for a super long time, but we use it to prep ourselves for the variations of dragonfly that are possible. So let's do, say, 3 to 5 more breaths here. And this is a great posture though, and you can actually hold this one for like up to 45 minutes at a time. So if you're ever at home, like watching TV or reading a book, you might consider coming down to the ground and doing those activities while in this posture. It's a liver meridian pose too, so it's really good for cleansing. After you have finished your breaths here, then lift your torso up, and we'll start with turning your torso over towards your right leg. Now, if you do have a strap or a belt or a tie handy, then you could have that nearby. It's not required though. Might also be nice to bring your cushion or blocks within reach. So kind of framing your right leg with your hands at first and lengthening through your spine. As you inhale, push your chest forward and up. And then exhale, start to walk your hands toward the right leg. So you're just folding toward your right leg. Now the goal is to try to keep your left hip grounded still. So you're still trying to keep your left hip grounded, and it could be helpful maybe to prop. So you might use like a prop here if you want to try to rest your head down onto your block, on your shin or your thigh. Trying not to push down onto your knee. So you might feel this stretch a little bit more in like the back of your right knee, your hamstrings. If you're using a strap, it can be looped on the sole of your foot. And then taking about 3 to 5 more breaths here, you'll have the option to stay in this one longer or to change it to a side bend. So you can choose if this is feeling really helpful and you want to stay longer, feel free. If you'd like to try the side bend, then lift your torso up just a little bit. And you can bring your right arm either to the top of your leg, or you can maybe place it on a block on the outside of your leg, palm up. Or you can actually use your elbow on your thigh and rest your head into your hand. Your left hand can come back and around and maybe looping, just resting on your low back. Or you can try bringing your left arm up along your ear. And if this is feeling pretty good and you want to take it deeper, then you can straighten the bottom arm, palm up. You can also bring the bottom arm to the inside of your right leg. Remember, you can always change your mind. So maybe you decide to go back with the top arm to that previous option of looping it behind your back. Find the stretch that feels the most helpful for you in your experience and settle into it. Breathe into it and hold it for a few minutes, allowing your body to absorb. You might feel this as a side bend along the left side, or maybe some compression in the right side body or the hip. And your options are to continue looking forward, keeping your head and neck in alignment with your spine, or you can actually let your head and neck hang heavy here. Continue to just breathe and absorb the stretch. And enjoying about 5 to 7 more breaths here if you can. If you need to come out early, just bring your torso up to neutral. That's perfectly fine. So the idea is that you're kind of turning the center of your chest up toward the sky, keeping your torso in the frontal plane. Last breath or two here. And then as you're ready, begin to rise up with your torso, taking a moment at neutral. If you need a break for your legs, bring them in and kind of paddle out your knees a little bit here. You can hug them into your chest and round through your spine. And then as you're ready, begin to find your legs feet out once more. You can still have the bent knees if needed and do these same postures with your knees bent. We'll start by turning our torso toward the left leg. And if you do have your knees bent, of course, also fine to have some padding underneath of them, remembering that's available to you. Turning your torso toward the left leg, inhale to lengthen through your spine, and then exhaling to allow your upper body to fold forward over it. You can also put a block under your forehead. You could strap your foot, making sure you're grounded through your right hip and your right toes are active toward the ceiling. Settling in here on the side, maybe you feel a stretch along the back of your knee or your hamstrings. Enjoying about 3 to 5 more breaths here, and then you'll have the option to stay or move into the side bend. Noticing your right hip again, try to relax the right hip. Keep it from gripping too much. And then again, you can stay here or you can turn to the side bend. So if you're doing the side bend, lift your torso. You can use like a block or a cushion on either side of your left leg. Or you can bring your arm there or your elbow, resting your head on your hand if that feels helpful. Right hand can come back behind your body or up along your ear. And then you can just kind of move until you find the perfect stretch. So maybe you decide to straighten the bottom arm. Maybe you decide to bring it to the inside of your left leg here, or the outside of your leg, or using a bolster or a block to support. Turning your chest toward the sky so that your torso is kind of like in the same plane as your leg. Grounding through your right hip, and you can relax that hip. It feels like your right toes are just being allowed to rest out, open to the side. Head can stay kind of active in alignment with your spine, or you can relax your head and neck toward the floor. You might feel stretching along your rib cage, your hip, your shoulder, maybe feeling a little strengthening happening on that top shoulder if it's lifted, if your arm is lifted. And last couple of breaths here. And then as you're ready, with an inhale, begin to lift your torso back up to seated. Placing your hands under your shoulders and taking a moment to lengthen through your spine. So we'll move into a supported fish next, a back bend. Now, I know that not everyone will have props, so I'll try to give you lots of options for this. Before you move your legs, you might need to actually use your hands behind your knees to get them out of that placement. We've been there for quite a while. And then ideally, if you have anything that's kind of like yoga blocks, then you can use these for supported fish. And the way that this works is we put one block here, kind of perpendicular with our mat, and the other one is parallel. So there's a few inches in between them. That's where your shoulder blades will go. So if you're doing the supported version here, then you can use your soles of the feet on the ground and use your hands to settle yourself down onto the blocks so that one is lifting your rib cage and the other is supporting your head. So this is one option. And I'll also give you the steps toward full fish if you'd like to try that. Or if you're already familiar with it, feel free to start moving into it. Now, if you don't have blocks, then your cushion might work well to help with the back bend too. So you can always bring that behind you and settle your body down onto it. Or if you'd like to try the full expression of fish, then you'll straighten your legs, turn your right palm down and slide your hand under your right hip, resting your hip down onto it. Then do the same thing with the other side. So your arms are both under your hips, your thumb and pointer fingers are touching, kind of like making a heart shape with your hands. Engage through your legs, push through the balls of your feet, and as you're ready to inhale, you'll push into your elbows to lift your chest, and then exhale to lower the crown of your head back down toward the ground. Holding this posture, whichever back bend you're taking, for about 30 seconds more. Breathing into your heart space. If you're using the supports of a pillow or props, just let yourself ground into them. If you're using your arms, keep actively pushing down through forearms and palms and lifting up through your chest. One more breath here. And then when you're ready to exhale, tuck your chin, look down towards your toes, removing any props from under your body and lowering yourself down to the mat. Bending your knees, you can tick-tock your knees from side to side. You can hug your knees in towards your chest if you'd like and rock a little bit, left to right. If there are any final postures or movements that you would like to take, Please feel free. And then we'll begin making our way into the final meditation when you're ready. So for the meditation, you can just lie on your back, feeling free to cover up with a blanket or put a pillow under your head. Or you can bring a bolster or cushion under your knees. You could also bring one under your spine. Just kind of shift around and play around with whatever props you have available to you until you feel that you are in a supine, lying down posture that you can really rest into, relax into for a few minutes. And you can stay here in your supine posture. I'm going to sit up in order to guide your meditation. Allow yourself to just notice all the points where your body touches the ground. Still breathing deeply, letting your belly rise and fall as you breathe. And you've earned a few minutes to just be, just relax and breathe. You can even fall asleep if you'd like. Feeling perhaps some gratitude in your heart for taking this time for yourself today. Create your destiny to enhance your experience through your practice of breath and meditation and healthy body. Settling into that. Enjoy this time. Play the singing bowls, and then I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Om Shanti, 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 peace, peace. since you are at your own home, I want to remind you that you're welcome to stay in Shavasana. You can even fall asleep here as long as you'd like for the meditation. If you'd like to start coming out of your meditation and close your practice, then just bringing some gentle movement into fingers and toes and breath. Maybe rolling your head from side to side. And taking a few breaths, perhaps to roll your body onto one side, resting your head on your bicep. And then, in your own way, you can begin to make your way up to seated if you'd like. Again, you're welcome to stay in Shavasana as long as you like if you're not quite ready to come out. And if you are ready to close your practice, finding your seat, maybe bringing your hands to meet in front of your heart or resting them on your heart space, take a few breaths and thank yourself for being here, for doing this tonight. I'll leave you with a quote from Oprah, and she says, "With every experience, you alone are painting your own canvas, thought by thought, choice by choice." Namaste.